Prince Harry has unleashed on British tabloids as he became the first royal in a century to take the stand in the High Court. Europe correspondent Brett McLeod is following the case. Brett, the Prince didn't hold back.
No, and there were some terse exchanges during the 5 hours of questioning. Now, this is the case he's brought, amongst others, against the Daily Mirror Group, claiming they got information in stories that could only have come from phone hacking or other illegal means. This is the first time he was questioned in court about these allegations. And while there's a general vibe, there's a bit of a shortness of specifics when he was asked about how with each of the stories, the dozens of stories he claims were obtained illegally, that information could have come about. But he still said the tabloids treated him like he was a drug-taking playboy prince and, quote, a thicko. It was pointed out to him, though, that some of the stories that he claims were the result of hacking had already been published by other rival newspaper groups or even confirmed by the palace themselves. But he said each time it has to be asked of the journalists how they got their information. Also, in his witness statement, he said the press and the UK government have reached rock bottom. And he had special words for his nemesis, really, the former editor of the Daily Mirror, Piers Morgan, who called attacking him horrific and personal. This is Piers Morgan's response.
He said your behaviour was vile and unjustified. What do you think?
I didn't see it, but I wish him luck with his privacy campaign. Look forward to reading it in his next book. The jousting in court will continue tomorrow.
It sure will. All right, Brett, thank you.
Well, Prince Harry's case against the British tabloids is heating up. The Duke of Sussex greeted by a huge press pack and police as he arrived at the High Court in London. The Prince then entered the witness box, testifying against the Mirror newspaper, becoming the first senior royal to give evidence in more than a century. He said the tabloids painted him as a, quote, thicko and a playboy. He also complained about this awful trip to Australia in 2003 where private investigators were paid to keep tabs on him. Let's bring in former Palace Press Secretary Dickie Arbiter. Dickie, good morning to you. Nice to see you this evening, this fine evening in London town. How did you see today's events?
It was interesting. We didn't get any television pictures out of it, but it was interesting copy that came out, and I thought Andrew Green, King's Counsel, acting on behalf of Mirror Group newspapers, was playing a bit of a blinder. He's known as the beast in court, and this came across very slightly, and I think we're going to see more of his action tomorrow when Harry is back in the box. They presented a 55-page witness statement. There were 33 counts of alleged hacking out of originally 144, which they whittled down to 35. And in many instances, Andrew Green took him to pieces. One particular instance where Harry said about his 12th birthday party, the details were hacked. Green said, well, how could they be hacked? You didn't have a mobile phone. He then suggested it might have been his mother's phone, to which Green said, well, that's speculation. There was another instance in Eton College where his colleagues were reading stories about Harry. Green said, well, did you read these stories? He said, I can't remember. Which was picking another hole in his story. It's very interesting what's come out today. It'll be more interesting what comes out tomorrow.
All right, the King had some pretty blunt assessments of what this action would bring in the courts for not just Harry, but I guess the whole royal family. He was pretty blunt about it, as I say. What do you make of where Harry's going to stand at the end of this?
It's very difficult to know where Harry's going to stand in this because it's a civil case, it's not a criminal case, so there's no jury, and the findings will be up to the judge. Where the royal family stand, well, hopefully there won't be anything untoward coming out of the interrogation tomorrow. It's when his own attorney might question him that there might be details about the rest of the family. But one wonders what else could come out, because we had an hour of Oprah, we had 6 hours of Netflix, we had a 500-page book. What else can come out? I don't think anything else can come out. So it'll be interesting to see what comes over the next few hours tomorrow. Today was a lengthy one, was 5 hours in the witness box. How many hours is going to be tomorrow remains to be seen.
All right, we'll be watching. Good on you, Dickie. Thank you so much. Lovely to see you. Sarah.
OK, day 2 of Prince Harry's historic showdown against the Mirror newspaper group has come to a close. The Duke of Sussex testifying against the tabloids, claiming they destroyed his childhood.
Let's bring in royal expert Victoria Arbiter in New York. Victoria, he did not hold back of his critique of the British press.
Good morning to you. Well, there were no fireworks or outbursts to speak of. For the most part, he was very polite and controlled. His confidence did grow as the day progressed. But as you know, Prince Harry has made no secret of his contempt for the British press. He had a 55-page witness statement, and in that he said, as a member of the royal family and a soldier, he believes it's his responsibility to expose the criminal activity he believes the tabloid press has engaged in. Now, 148 articles have been cited in this case. 33 are up for forensic examination, and they run the gamut. Everything from his relationship with his girlfriends, his teenage years, partying, that famous Nazi costume, drug taking, the breakdown of his parents' marriage. And he says every single one of them played a destructive role in his childhood. So clearly very personal and very upsetting for Prince Harry to be in this position.
Clearly. On day 1, though, or day 2, I suppose, people are already saying that Harry's testimony is lacking concrete evidence. Would you agree with that?
Yes, overall I would, and simply because the opposing barrister was able to really find a number of inconsistencies, even from Prince Harry's book Spare. Just one glaring example is in Spare, he talked about how much he wanted to meet Paul Burrell, Diana's former butler. Everyone sort of has heard of Paul Burrell 20-odd years on. And yet in the court testimony, he says that he and William fell out because he didn't want to meet Paul Burrell. So it was tricky when the barrister was able to find inconsistencies just from his testimony in court and his testimony according to his book. There were a number of instances where he found other holes in Harry's stories, at which point Harry said, well, that was suspicious by that journalist, or I don't remember that instance. Again, the lawyer was able to cite moments where Harry had said he believed that the information potentially as a result of phone hacking, and yet the opposition was able to say, well, actually, no, that information came from an official spokesperson or another paper. So yes, I would say that the evidence was lacking today.
So, but is there something, I mean, he talked about it a lot in his book, and he talked about not being able to trust people in his inner circle. I think on the stand he mentioned he withdrew from friends at school because he just became so paranoid about this because of the press's intrusion into his life. Are they going to be able to find some instances where Harry can back up this story?
I think Harry's certainly going to be hoping there will be. Yes, you can absolutely imagine how difficult it must have been for Prince Harry. There has been so much interest in his life, and a number of these stories date back to when he was just a boy. We're talking 1996. He said paranoia kicked in. He pulled away from very close friends and associates because he felt he couldn't trust them. So that evidence is going to be very crucial. There's no denying how all of this made Harry feel, but his feelings alone, unfortunately, aren't going to be able to support his accusations. And at this point, the judge has got to rule based on evidence, not how Harry felt. So I think we can all agree, certainly you'd have to have a heart of stone to not acknowledge that any kind of phone hacking is absolutely abhorrent, as is the illegal gathering of information. But Harry is really going to need to deliver that evidence to support his claims.
To prove it, it's going to get uncomfortable, isn't it? Victoria Arbiter, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.